Welcome to Milsurp Minutes. I'm Nick. Today I've been invited back to Bull Moose Guns here in Mint Hill, North Carolina to take a look at a few of the guns that they have for sale here right now that piqued my interest. What we'll be taking a look at here today is a Type 38 Arisaka, and that's the first thing I'd like to touch on in this video is the kind of misnomer of calling Japanese rifles Arisakas, specifically the Type 38 and the Type 99. Now, this all being said, whenever I see a Type 38 or Type 99, I'm still going to call it an Arisaka. It's just how I've learned it, but it's just not correct exactly. The last rifle that Arisaka, what was his name, Baron Arisaka, designed was the Type 30 rifle that had a big old hooked safety, which is a good way to give them away, and I'll show you a picture of that here. Those rifles would have served during the Russo-Japanese War, and by the time the war had concluded, the Japanese realized that there were some serious shortcomings with the rifle that needed to be tweaked a bit to really have a good, really strong service rifle, and this is what would later come out of it. This, as well as its predecessor, the Type 35, were designed by Nambu, the fame of the Type 99 Nambu light machine gun, as well as the Type 14 Nambu pistol and its variations. We'll get into some of the changes specifically that he made as we bring the camera in closer. Some other important things to know about the history of this rifle is that this is the rifle that would have served and entered service around 1905, 1906 is when these began production. They shifted production a few times. They originally started at the Tokyo Arsenal until the earthquake in the 1920s, which then I believe the production line to Kokura. These rifles would be produced well into the early parts of World War II. Most of the time these would not be seen as much in the Pacific theater, rather they'd be seen in mainland Asia, in China, in Vietnam, and Korea, used by Japanese forces, as well as when they were seen in the Pacific, they'd normally be in the hands of Imperial Japanese Navy personnel who would be shoreside, such as Japanese landing force troops and things of that nature, because this rifle more than likely was picked up by a U.S. serviceman in the Second World War. Now I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer and we're going to talk about some of the details of this rifle. So, starting from the back, one thing that a lot of people mistake for being damage to Japanese rifles like the Type 38, Type 99, and the Type 30, if they ever see them, is that they think that there's a crack in the stock. This is not the case. This is actually a two-piece stock where you have one piece of wood that ends here, and another piece of wood meet here. One has the grain moving this direction, one has the grain moving this direction. This is because the Japanese didn't have a very good supply of good stock blanks, one, and also the wood that they did have wasn't super hard. And this changing the direction of the grain is to help protect from damage to the toe of the rifle. These two pieces are dovetailed together along this line right here, and it's held together by having the screws of, I believe, the sling swivel here go through the bottom piece and up and through the top piece, and I believe having this screw here quite long so it reaches down between the two to hold them together. You additionally see that because of the weaker wood, they have an extended tang on the bottom and top and a secondary screw to hold that together. Nambu would improve on the Arisaka design of the Type 30 by switching to this palm safety as opposed to the hook. So still relatively easy to operate, but just a little bit more user-friendly. Another thing I'll show you here is his improvements to the bolt. Unfortunately, I don't have a Type 30 to show you, but the Type 30 was an incredibly complex bolt to disassemble, whereas this one has six parts total, and a couple of them are welded together in this cap right here. Another thing that's quite interesting about this is that this rifle was designed very much with gas mitigation in mind. So in the event of a ruptured case, you have two vent holes at the top, a vent hole at the side of the bolt, and in the event that it somehow vents that you have gas venting through the firing pin channel, or the striker channel here. You have this cap at the very back of it to hold it all in and keep anything from coming out the back of the rifle into the shooter's face. You also have a couple of relief holes here in the striker assembly. Reassemble it, shouldn't take too long. You also have the introduction of the dust cover. This was something that has a lot of myth surrounding it. And to start off, we'll talk about the history of it too. These were introduced because there was during the Russo-Japanese War, Japanese troops found themselves in environments where their Type 30 rifles were becoming very easily compromised by dirt and dust into the actions of the rifles. So Nambu initially started by adding a sliding dust cover, like on the Siamese Mauser rifle that was made in Japan, that just you would slide off when you wanted to use the rifle, and then you slid it back on when you were done. He further perfected this by the Type 38 dust cover that moves with the bolt, and you don't have to worry about remembering to open it or close it. Another thing that was quite interesting was that post-World War II, it was found that the Type 38 was among the strongest of the actions of any service rifle used in the Second World War. And this could withstand significant amounts of higher pressure than the 6.5 by 50 cartridge that this thing was originally chambered for. On the top of the receiver you have an intact Imperial chrysanthemum. As I said, the two vent holes for if you have a ruptured case. And I don't remember exactly what it says, but it basically says Type 38, which corresponded with 1905, because 1905 was the 38th year of the Meiji period of Emperor Meiji's reign. One other interesting thing about the 6.5 cartridge by 50 cartridge was that out of this fairly long barrel you see here, you could get complete powder burn. You could burn all of the powder in the cartridge over the course of travel. So it resulted in incredibly low to no muzzle flash whatsoever from this rifle. That made it incredibly popular with Japanese snipers. However, as I mentioned, these weren't nearly as common to see in the Pacific theater. That's why nowadays, if you go out looking, you normally see Type 99s more commonly. Unfortunately, that also leads to the ammo for these things being considerably harder to find. Looking at the left side of the receiver wall, you can see the arsenal mark, which I was told was the Tokyo Kyogo arsenal mark, and the serial number. I'm to understand that Type 38s had a continuous serial number as opposed to being broken up into series like you would see with the Type 99. Another thing you see is the bolt release, which is very reminiscent of a Mauser, which really drives home how much in layout this rifle shares to, say, the 1893 or 1895 patterned Mauser rifles. And is arguably the best Mauser rifle there ever was. Another thing interesting to note is up here at the front by the nose cap you have this spring that retains the nose cap, but also, if you press it in, unlike Mauser rifles that are threaded in, this acts as a button for the latch that retains your cleaning rod, which is a full-length cleaning rod, unlike Mauser rifles that'll be a half cleaning rod that you have to attach two together to get one complete one. But that's a quick look at the rifle. Now I'm going to bring out the bayonet and we can take a look at that too. So here we have the Type 30 bayonet. This pattern of bayonet would have been introduced with the Type 30 rifle and would have been used on the Type 35, the Type 38, and also on the Type 99 during the Second World War. This one is likely a Type 1 World War II era Type 30 bayonet. Taking the scabbard off, we can see we have a blade in the white. It has the hooked quillion still. That would be deleted initially for a just straight cross guard you'd see on the second pattern of bayonet during the Second World War, before they finally moved on to what was referred to as the last ditch pattern bayonet that was even more crude towards the end of the war that I'll show you. I can go in more into detail about them as I cover them, as I will be soon doing a series on the Type 99 and whatever variation of it that I can get my hands on. Overall, this makes, when you attach this to the rifle, it actually makes it a pretty long package overall, and I'll show you what that looks like here. So I've got the rifle here that already comes up past my waist on the ground. With the bayonet attached though, it adds a little bit more length. It still doesn't quite reach the top of my head. That spot's still only been taken by my Berthier with the Rosalie bayonet, but it still does give you quite a bit of reach, and if you were a dork like me and attach this bayonet in your house, be careful because you might hit your fan blades with it. But it gives you quite a bit of reach with it. Look at that, I can basically get the camera with this thing. I have heard anecdotes about it. I don't know how true it is that the Japanese were quite good. They did quite a bit of hand-to-hand fighting with bayonet fighting, but I have heard before that they became so proficient with utilizing the quillion for its intended purpose that, say, when engaging in a bayonet charge, Army soldiers, Marines would attempt to affix bayonets and fight with them, and Japanese troops could catch the bayonet with the quillion, use it to rip the rifle out of their hands, and then stab them with their bayonet. I don't know how true this is. For a long time I'd been under the impression that quillions on bayonets were a pretty useless thing, and that's why you saw them get deleted. Further research is needed into this, and I will cover that in greater detail when I cover the Type 99 and my own, or first pattern, Type 30 bayonet. But that's a quick overlook of this complete Type 38 rifle that's available here at Bull Moose Guns. Be sure to check them out online, or if you're in the neighborhood here in Mint Hill, North Carolina, Charlotte area, stop on by, say hello. They might have something cool like this on the shelf. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe.